Messages. Human beings are inundated with messages every single day. On average, U.S. citizens see between 4,000 and 10,000 digital messages each day, and those are just the ones intentionally sent by advertising companies. We receive messages from various people, places, and things, all of which inform what we believe and who we are becoming. Being a graduate student in mathematics education means I see far less digital messages than the average human being. Am I right? What's Netflix? I don't even know anymore. But receive far more messages from the institutional system in which I am able to participate. I'm not going to throw away my shot rehashing the ideas in my paper. Instead, I'm going to focus on the messages that I, as a graduate student of color, continue to hear as I emerge into this community. I'd like to thank the local organizing committee for offering the opportunity to speak with you all and share these few messages. I'd also like to thank my advisor, Holt Wilson, for his support throughout this process. I am a cisgender, black and biracial woman of color who is raising a daughter of color in the United States. I'm a mathematics educator. I'm currently pursuing a doctoral degree in mathematics education research, and I desire to engage in equity-oriented research towards justice for minoritized students in mathematics. My core identities impact my ability to perceive some of the messages I receive through the institutional system, and I'm aware of that. Our core identities are not the same. Yet there are some identities that we share because we are all in this room together. And so for many of you, you were a graduate student at one point in time. And I know many of you have left that stage, but I'm going to ask you to return to it just for a little bit of time and center back on that experience to think about these two different questions. What messages are we sending our graduate students, especially those from historically marginalized communities, about who they have to become in order to be a part of this field? Which parts, if any, of your identity did you have to silence in order to find success here, to be welcomed in here? Message 1. You just have to get used to the way things are. We know that the Academy was not initially designed to include scholars who were women or scholars of color as creators of knowledge. Yet we have been paused on creating new knowledge long enough to wonder what messages the institutional system continues to send, knowing that not all voices were centered when this system was created. Our institutions were created to uphold Eurocentric, Western cultural beliefs as the process and standard of success, and as those were the people that were present in its origination. Because of this orientation, any new knowledge that does not center on those beliefs is often seen as a disruption to the norm. And so we send the message, you just have to get used to the way things are. What if instead we sent the message, why are things the way they are? And who gets centered in that process? Message 2. Just make it through, and then do what you want to do. Right? Oh, you laugh. Or the other way we say that is, don't worry, you can change. At the peak of education, the doctoral journey should be about a personalized, intentional pricing experience. Much like our K-12 system, some programs have become more like cookie-cutter institutions that reproduce scholars who look like, act like, talk like, and write like the researchers from understudy. They use the same research tools, methodologies, and theories as the previous person they studied with. Please tell me, how is that the creation of new knowledge? Laban Wager suggests that who you are becoming is shaped by what you know, and what you know is shaped by what you do. As mathematics education scholars, the research tools, methodologies, and theories that we use shape what we know, which shapes who we are becoming. We spend 4+ years in pursuit of a PhD, followed by a 6-year Future Plus chase toward promotion and tenure in hopes that maybe we can just make it through to the other side, where safety and security is promised, in hopes that then we can be ourselves. But in that decade of time, I will have laminated into my identity as a mathematics education researcher a use of apolitical and benign tools, methods, and theories that may blunt my critical edge as I bide my time to find success. How reasonable is it to expect a scholar to then change her repertoire of tools, methods, and theories so as to emerge as a robustly grounded critical scholar? What is the cost of my decade of finding success if the scholar I become in that time does not have the skills to then effectively change the system for the people that matter most to me? We are normalizing the message that who we are right now is too quick, too harsh, too much for the system to be able to hold. And if we would just wait, the system will be ready. It rings in the ear of every Negro with piercing familiarity. This wait has almost always meant never. We must come to see with one of our distinguished jurists that justice too long delayed is justice denied. Who are we telling to wait to begin? Does the system require this waiting of all of us, or just those of us with the history of being told to wait? Message 3. It's just so much extra work for me to do the work that I want to do. We have a plethora of data demonstrating that our additional demands on both scholars of color and justice-oriented scholars in our academic institutions. According to the U.S. Department of Education's National Center for Education Statistics, women of color faculty continue to be underrepresented in the academy, comprising 12% of assistant, 9% associate, and 5% full professors at degree-granting institutions. Students of color comprise approximately 22% of all doctoral degrees conferred in the United States institutions, and the number of doctoral-seeking students of color is on the rise. This disproportionate balance between available faculty of color to provide windows and mirrors to students of color looking to see if they belong in these spaces, if they can indeed do this work, places an insurmountable quantity of mentorship on the shoulders of our faculty of color and our justice-oriented scholars. The statistics on the retention of those scholars post-promotion and tenure is clear. Our system is not designed to support the additional work that we ask of those scholars. And this is true without having a critical orientation to one's work. Imagine being a junior scholar who is navigating the complexity of departments with mission statements that promote equity and equality in word, only to find that in action, that support exists only as long as it is profitable. Sarah Ahmed wrote of women of color in the academy that when they resist, they might be seen as troublemakers. And when they write, their voices are often viewed as unscholarly. Please tell me, under these conditions, who would ever consider this pursuit? And so at big events such as PMENA, we look around and we go, where are the scholars of color? Instead of wondering, what is it about this system that is keeping scholars of color from thriving? Message 4. I've brought this on myself, or in the Bible Belt we'd say, this is your cross to bear. Those of us who choose to draw from the well of our lived experiences as impetus for our research often struggle with the closeness and proximity between our scholarship and our core identities. In the last year, I have heard this message ring loud and clear. In the production of this plenary, I struggled greatly with my own mental health, often believing this message, that I brought it on myself. I didn't struggle because it was hard or difficult. I struggled because it was close. I struggled because I had evidence of it being real. And with the examples we have of scholars who have been publicly attacked for their scholarship, coupled with the internal conversation about having to defend one's scholarship on ontological rather than mere methodological grounds, frames the work of our community centered on justice as a delusion or disruption, rather than a source of innovation, creativity, or expansion. Unintentionally, the message says that somehow the work of justice should fall on the shoulders of those who have been historically marginalized. That it would somehow be their tradition in the system to center their work on equity. But it is not my tradition to continue to be centered on my oppression. Systems are resistant to change. But what is our system resisting? I guess I should have asked whom. Is the system resistant to all ideas of change or just the ones that come from the margins? Here's some implications. I recognize that for some, the privileges we carry protect us from having to experience the tension of these messages, while for others, the collision is nearly constant. I also recognize that many of you will think it foolish for me, as a graduate student in my lacking status, to stand up here on this stage and share this message with you. But as a woman of color, I have found that part of my capital against the system of oppression is in articulating its existence. And systemic change will not occur without consequences and action. The thing is, each of these messages silences creativity. It stifles away the ability to innovate from the core of who we are. We have to ask ourselves if the messages we are sending our emerging scholars communicate that our community is really about creativity, innovation, and new knowledge. We can't say that we're about creativity, innovation, and new knowledge creation that expands our field if we're constantly sending messages that who I am is not enough, not right, not normal, and I can't find success here. So I'll bridge the work of Dr. Rochelle Gutierrez to this community and ask, do I get to be a better me? Or do I have to become you in order to be here? Instead, let's sow messages that honor who we are when we arrive, with the hope that it could spark creativity and innovation and send us into a new dimension that honors us. And that's the point of us gathering here. Let's have the difficult conversations and discuss the messages that our community is sending to our graduate students about who they have to be in order to be welcomed here. Thank you for welcoming me.